So you've brought us a case, and it's clearly one that weighs on you quite a bit. The unsolved murder of Faith Hedgepeth.
It really does, yeah.
We have a lot to unpack here. News reports, interviews, even a forensic analysis of a voicemail.
Yeah, a lot of material to go through.
Let's see if we can, together, kind of untangle the story of what happened that night in Chapel Hill.
It's a case, where it seems like the most ordinary, everyday details, they take on this huge weight.
Right.
A night out, just a typical college apartment, a misplaced phone, they become like the cornerstones of this real tragedy.
Absolutely. So let's start with Faith. Who she was. She was 19 years old, a member of the Haliwa-Saponi tribe. A bright student at UNC, had dreams of becoming a doctor.
Her father, he described her as a gift, a light in his life. So this wasn't just a case file, right? This was a young woman with a future, and that future was stolen.
Yeah. September 7th, 2012. Started like any other day for Faith. Classes, studying with her roommate, Karina Rosario, at the library. And then they head out to a club called The Thrill.
Yeah, just typical college life. But as we know, things took a very dark turn. They left the club around 2:30 a.m., and Karina was claiming to feel unwell. So Faith helped her back to their apartment, and a few hours later, Karina left with a friend, leaving Faith alone.
And this is where the story becomes truly tragic. Karina returned around 11:00 a.m. to find Faith's body in their apartment. The 911 call that she made is chilling.
It's a really difficult thing to listen to, and it also raises some immediate questions, too. The police report mentions another woman, Marisol Rangel, was present with Karina.
Okay.
But the operator speaks to Karina as if she's completely alone.
Mm-hmm.
No mention of Marisol, no sounds of anyone else in the background.
Wow.
It's strange.
It gets even stranger because the downstairs neighbor reported seeing Karina and Marisol shortly after that 911 call. And he said that Marisol was like crying quietly and Karina was texting. Not the reaction you'd expect after discovering a murder scene.
No, not at all. It's unsettling. Was it just shock? Or is there something more that we're missing? It casts a shadow, this detail, over everything that came after.
Yeah. The initial investigation seemed to hit a wall. DNA testing was done on a number of people, including athletes and residents of the complex, but no matches.
The family's frustration, you can feel it growing as you read through these materials. They were convinced that Faith knew her killer and the brutality of the crime. It seemed to point to some kind of personal connection.
And then there's the note that was found at the scene. Scrawled on a fast food bag, it reads, "I'm not stupid bitch jealous." Just the words themselves are chilling.
Yeah.
They're bone chilling.
It's a crucial piece of evidence, that note. We actually brought in a forensic handwriting expert, Peggy Waller, to analyze it. And one of the things she found was that the note's cleanliness suggests that it was either written outside of the crime scene, beforehand, or premeditated. So it wasn't done in a hurry.
So potentially a planned act.
Yeah.
Waller also suggested that the handwriting was disguised, possibly written with the non-dominant hand. And the language, particularly that emphasis on "I'm not stupid," indicates a very personal trigger for whoever wrote it.
Yeah, it speaks to like a rage almost, born from insecurity, a need to prove their intelligence. Whoever wrote that note felt very deeply wounded by that accusation, maybe triggered by something in their past.
Right. And then there's the voicemail that Faith accidentally left for a friend just hours before her estimated time of death.
Yeah, this was discovered later on and retrieved from the phone company.
So this voicemail was analyzed by a forensic audio expert, Arlo West. He specializes in something called pocket dial analysis. He's worked on murder cases before successfully, and what he found here is very disturbing.
It's tough to listen to.
West was able to isolate snippets of audio from the voicemail. You hear sounds of a struggle, a woman crying for help, male voices, and phrases like, "I think she's dying, and do it anyhow." Just awful.
Awful stuff. And West believes he identifies Faith's voice pleading for help on that recording.
Oh, wow.
Even more shocking, the name Eric is clearly spoken.
Okay.
So this adds another layer to the case, especially when you consider that Karina's ex-boyfriend at the time was named Eric.
Right, of course. This audio had a huge impact on Faith's family. To hear what could be the final moments of their daughter's life, just an unbearable burden.
It confirmed their suspicions that multiple people were involved too. And their focus, understandably, went right to Eric, the ex-boyfriend. Given his history of domestic abuse, his reluctance to speak about the case, it's a natural place for them to look.
Right. But the police response to this voicemail complicates the timeline. because they maintained that the call was made from the nightclub, based on cell tower data and other evidence. This puts it hours before Faith's estimated time of death.
Yeah, it creates this stark conflict. The official investigation points one way, the family and this independent expert point another. The voicemail's authenticity and relevance, it's very hotly debated.
So what do we make of that? I mean,
It's a puzzle. Yeah, it really does feel like this case hinges on this complex web of relationships and motives.
it does. Let's see if we can untangle that a little
Yeah.
bit. So we've already mentioned Karina's ex-boyfriend, Eric. What more do we know about him?
Well, his full name is Eric Turcoy Jones, and he was an aspiring rapper living in Chapel Hill at the time. He was extensively interviewed by police, his DNA was tested, but no direct link to the crime was found.
But Faith's family, they remain suspicious, right?
Oh, yeah. They pointed to his troubled relationship with Karina, including documented domestic abuse and even a restraining order she filed against him just weeks before the murder.
Wow. That restraining order was the result of a violent outburst, right?
Mm-hmm.
Eric reportedly kicked in 2 doors in their apartment. And there were accounts of Karina having, visible injuries allegedly from him.
Yeah. And shortly before Faith's murder, Eric posted a really cryptic message on Facebook. It read, "Dear Lord, forgive me for all of my sins and the sins I may commit today. Protect me from the girls who don't deserve me and the ones who wish me did today."
I mean, just given the context, it's a chilling statement, almost like he's foreshadowing something.
Yeah, very much so.
To add to that, a former roommate of Faith's told police that Faith had actually confided in her about Eric's hostility. She said Faith told her that Eric hated her for supporting Karina and helping her get that restraining order.
And that same roommate also claimed that Eric had threatened to kill Faith if Karina didn't get back together with him.
Okay, so I mean, you start to put these details together and you get a very disturbing picture of Eric's character,
Yeah.
possible motive.
Yeah, it's not looking good. And despite initially cooperating with the police, he actually refused to speak to Crime Watch Daily when they reached out for an interview.
Oh, really?
Yeah, his response was pretty telling, I thought. He said, "Honestly, I don't want nothing to do with that, and I don't need that kind of attention while I'm in grad school. My lawyer doesn't think it's a good idea and wants your contact information," almost like he's trying to distance himself.
Yeah. And his behavior when the Crime Watch Daily crew tried to speak to him at his mother's house just kind of adds to the suspicion, doesn't it?
It really does.
He followed them after they left his property, which you could interpret as intimidation.
It definitely raises some red flags. It's like he's got something to hide, or at the very least, he's afraid of being implicated, even after all these years.
Right. So, as we said, the police seem convinced that the voicemail isn't directly related to the murder. Right. They say they have evidence placing Faith at the nightclub around the time that voicemail was supposedly recorded, and witness statements confirming she was alive and well after the call was made.
And they've also pointed to some known issues with iPhone timestamps around that time, suggesting that the timestamp on the voicemail might be inaccurate.
Okay.
But the family and Arlo West, the audio expert, they remain unconvinced. They
Right.
believe that the police might be overlooking crucial evidence. West is adamant that the voices on the recording, the struggle, the specific phrases, it all points to a crime in progress.
This is so perplexing. You've got the official police investigation going one way. You've got the family and an independent expert pulling in a completely different direction.
It's almost like someone's got to be wrong. This case is full of these contradictions.
It is. It's a strange one. And that's what makes it so compelling, but also so frustrating.
Right.
And there's just enough ambiguity, enough unanswered questions to, fuel doubt and speculation.
It really is. And, what if the police are too focused on a very specific timeline and they're overlooking other possibilities?
Yeah, that's a good question. What if the voicemail, does hold the key, but it's being misinterpreted or completely ignored?
Right. And in the midst of all this, you have Faith's family grappling with this unimaginable grief and this agonizing uncertainty of not knowing who killed their daughter or why. It's heartbreaking.
Yeah. So let's take a closer look then at the police investigation. What was their approach? And what specific challenges did they face?
Well, the Chapel Hill Police Department has been very tight-lipped about the specifics, citing the need to protect the integrity of the case, which is standard. They maintain they followed every lead, interviewed countless people, and analyzed all the available evidence.
But even despite their efforts, the case remains unsolved. And the family has criticized the pace of the investigation, especially in the early years.
Yeah, they felt information was being withheld and that their concerns weren't being adequately addressed.
It's understandable. When a loved one is murdered, you want answers. You want them fast. And the slow, methodical nature of police work, it can be so incredibly frustrating, especially when it feels like they're not making any progress.
Yeah, absolutely. And in this case, that lack of transparency from the police, it only fueled the family's suspicions that maybe there was more to the story.
Yeah, it makes sense. And that lack of information can often breed, like, conspiracy theories and speculation,
Oh,
which
absolutely.
can actually hinder the investigation, right?
Totally, yeah. It can send the police on these wild goose chases.
Right. So it's a double-edged sword. Public interest can keep a case in the spotlight, right? It can put pressure on the authorities to solve it. But misinformation can also muddy the waters and distract from the real leads.
It can, for sure.
You requested the police documents yourself, right?
I did.
I mean, that must have been frustrating to see so much redacted. It makes you wonder, like, what are they hiding?
Yeah. I mean, the family's argument was that their redactions were excessive and that they actually prevented them from understanding the scope of the investigation.
Right. And there were also discrepancies in the timeline presented by the police, too, right?
Yeah, yeah. The estimated time of death, the timing of the voicemail, witness statements, it just seemed to clash at certain points.
Yeah. And those discrepancies, whether they're intentional or accidental, they can erode public trust in the investigation. They create this sense that something isn't quite adding up.
Yeah, for sure.
So where does that leave us? We have a brutal murder, conflicting evidence, and a grieving family desperate for justice.
It's a tangled mess. The truth remains elusive. But even amidst all of that uncertainty, there are glimpses of hope, you know? The police remain committed to solving the case. Advancements in DNA technology could provide new leads. And, the power of public attention should never be underestimated.
That's true. Okay, so we've explored the crime scene, we've looked at the voicemail, we've talked about the key players. But what about the murder weapon itself? Was anything found at the scene?
The police have been pretty tight-lipped about the murder weapon. They haven't publicly revealed what was used to kill Faith, which is, again, not uncommon in ongoing investigations.
Yep.
But some details have emerged through various reports and interviews. It's believed that Faith was severely beaten. She suffered blunt force trauma to the head.
Yeah, the autopsy report, which was finally released to the family after 2 years, revealed that she did indeed die from blunt force trauma to the head. It also indicated possible signs of sexual assault, but the specifics of that aspect of the case have remained largely confidential.
They have.
In one interview, the chief of police actually mentioned that a bottle was found at the scene and that it's believed to have been used as a weapon.
And interestingly, the bottle was intact, not broken, which suggests a level of controlled violence, perhaps using the bottle, as a bludgeoning instrument rather than smashing it against her head.
That's disturbing because it suggests like a level of premeditation, maybe even a desire to inflict pain rather than just kill quickly.
Right. The choice of weapon can tell us a lot about the perpetrator. Was it something readily available at the scene, or did they bring it with them? These are questions the police are undoubtedly considering.
Of course. But without knowing like the specific type of bottle or any other details about its condition, it's hard to draw any definitive conclusions.
It's true. It's just another piece of this puzzle, another little piece waiting to be fit into the larger picture.
And amidst all of this, you have Faith's family just clinging to hope, seeking justice, trying to make sense of this senseless act. It's tough. We keep coming back to that note that was found near Faith's body.
It's hard not to.
I'm not stupid bitch jealous. It's more than a message, isn't it? It feels like a glimpse, like you're looking right into the killer's mind.
I think so, yeah. I mean, that emphasis on "I'm not stupid," like the handwriting expert pointed out, suggests a real deep wound, someone completely fixated on proving their intelligence, maybe overcompensating for some past hurt,
Right. And the attempt to disguise their handwriting, too, suggests premeditation. Like this wasn't just some spur-of-the-moment act.
No, absolutely not. And even the word choices, bitch, jealous, they're dehumanizing, right? It points to someone who sees other people as obstacles, as threats that just need to be eliminated.
That's a scary thought. And when we consider this alongside the potential motives of those connected to Faith, Eric, his history of violence, even the roommate, who might have known more than she let on, it paints a chilling picture.
It does, and this is where that forensic analysis and human behavior really intersect. You have the physical evidence, the note, the possible murder weapon, the DNA, but then we layer on the psychology, the potential triggers, the relationships, the actions before and after the crime. It gets complicated.
It does. It's like one of those crime dramas where they try to build a profile of the killer just from little, seemingly insignificant details. It's fascinating and terrifying all at the same time.
Yeah, and it really underscores how complex it is to solve a crime like this. It's not just about matching fingerprints or DNA. It's about understanding the dark motivations that can actually lead someone to commit such a violent act.
So I guess the question is, what are the biggest questions that remain? The things that keep investigators and Faith's family up at night, searching for answers.
I think, first and foremost, who wrote that note? Was it Eric, driven by jealousy and rage? Or was it someone else entirely, someone we haven't even considered yet? That question just hangs over everything.
Yeah. And what really happened in those early morning hours in Faith's apartment? The police timeline is there, but the voicemail, the neighbor's account of Karina and Marisol's kind of strange behavior, the inconsistencies in the 911 call, it all creates this fog of doubt. It's like we have these pieces of the truth, but we don't have the whole picture.
We're missing something. And even the question of the murder weapon itself. We know a bottle was found, but the details haven't been released, so we're just left to speculate about how that attack unfolded.
Right. Faye's family is convinced that someone out there knows the truth. They've pleaded for anyone with information to come forward to finally give them the answers they so desperately need. And, that plea goes beyond just this case. It speaks to the importance of witnesses coming forward, even if what they know seems really small, insignificant. Sometimes even the smallest detail can be the missing piece that helps solve the puzzle. It's been over a decade now since Faith Hedgepeth was murdered, and the case remains open. But with advances in DNA technology and the efforts of law enforcement and her family, there's always hope that justice will prevail.
There is. And this deep dive, it's shown us that even when we have a lot of information, the truth can be fragmented, hidden. It takes meticulous analysis, a willingness to question everything, and maybe even a bit of luck to bring a killer to justice.
This has been a difficult case to delve into, a reminder that there's real darkness out there. But it's also a reminder that there's hope. Hope for answers, hope for justice, and hope that Faith's story will one day have the resolution it deserves. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.